Hello, Nick Harris here. We're talking about painting rust today, but as with painting most things, if you're painting a scene, you have to relate it to the context of how you're painting the rest of the scene. So I'm showing a bit of the painting in the background as well. As I commented in the last bullet point there, I've painted a shadow over the top of Rusty, that's what I've called the robot, for good reason. Just because it means that then you can work back into it and get some nice glinting effects. This is what I'm doing now. just picking out little highlights here and there. This won't be the definitive final highlights. We can paint them later on top and really crisp them up. See how that goes. But at the moment this is still just setting up a base for painting the rust on top, and that's what I'm going to do now. I have duplicated the solid painting of Rusty on another layer, as you can see there. Then I've locked the transparency, and now I'm beefing up the texture of the paper. You can edit individual layer texture by going to the drop down at the corner, which is what I've done there, and I've picked a fairly rough paper and beefed it up a bit, and now using the chalk tool set to low settings so that you can see the texture, I'm just scribbling away over the top, quite loosely, quite freely, because that's how rust tends to go, and just making a sort of a scrubbly, made up word, a scribbly sort of texture, and it's done very roughly. But again, this is setting up a nice base that you can paint details into later and really crisp it up and make the most of it. And now I'm going to add another layer, and I'm going to do the same kind of thing on the floor, on the decking. That's supposed to be decking, and we have decking at home. And in the winter, well, I'm in the UK, when it gets really wet, it goes really mouldy looking like this. And so I lay a texture over the top as well, and then cut back into it. So you get a nice sort of really mottled texture, which then ties in well with the rust that you're painting on him. And I do this on various other things, other items around the scene. It's tying it all in together, so it all has the same kind of finish. It all works together as a scene. This particular piece is going to be quite a bit of a juggling act, because while I want Rusty to be the centre of attention, I also want him to be quite integrated into the background, because he's gradually being absorbed by it. He's going to be being overwhelmed by plants and rust, which is like why we're here painting. But to speed through it a bit faster, I am now stopping the vid capture bit for a bit and doing some more screen grabs, as it says at the bottom, so that we can get through this background painting a bit faster. Otherwise we could be here weeks, and well, you die of boredom. As I've said numerous times before, one of the wonderful things about digital art is that you can tinker and add things as you go to adjust the composition on the fly. Which is what I did just a minute ago. I added some more building left and right to frame it a bit better, and also so that Rusty is framed better, I've added a bigger bunch of foliage behind the watering can so that it stands out more. I'll be able to pick that out more in a minute. And I'm also beefing up the cast shadows so that he will be in the beam of light more. The way the light will be falling on him will be pointing at him from right to left. I've done foliage on various layers, which I've got behind and in front of him, and I use stickers a lot for this. I've built a small arsenal of stickers of different leaf and stuff like that. It will save you ages of time if you do this. Please do this. Stickers are ArtRage's image hose. But now at last we get to the fun bit. I make a stencil like I did before and put a shadow over the top half of Rusty so that we can emphasize the glints like we did before. That doesn't take too long. I do a little bit of fettling. We're going live again now. So you can see the cursor moving. That's me working on the shadow, labelled there. But as well as that, I'm also going to go back to, remember I duplicated the body colour layer there and painted it with rusty colours. Now the great thing about that is now I can go back in and erase bits so that you can see the original colour underneath, and you can make a more interesting rust pattern like that, make it more convincing, individualise it to the shapes. Before it was fairly generalised kind of painting. You can be a bit more detailed now, a bit more specific. All I'm doing is erasing here and there to try and make it look like the paint is still hanging on against the rust, which is eating away at it. So what I will have to do is, well, I don't have to do it, but I fancy doing it, putting a few edges of paint in, just highlights on a top layer that I call top glint. you can go back in like I'm doing now, and I'm using a pencil tool, and I'm just drawing little scratch marks and little edges here and there, and just crisp it up enough to give the impression of detail without going too berserk. See, when you close it, it's not that particularly detailed. It's fairly rough, really. If you blow it up, mind you, if you blow any picture up enough, it'll look rough. But this really is. That's how I work. I kind of wing it as I go. To show he's not quite dead, I put a little glint of light in his eye to show there's a bit of power still there. And also rotate the canvas. That's just for a more comfortable drawing angle, because I want to make a sharper edge around his, what would be a mouth if he really had a mouth, and get to other angles that I can't really get to vertically, not comfortably anyway. And I think we're getting close to a point where I may leave it soon, because it just about works. I think it's not far off now. I'm just adding little bits here and there. There's always the danger of doing too much overkill, and then it doesn't fit in anymore. It looks too detailed, can't say the word, detailed, and won't fit in with the rest of the picture, and that'd be a shame. So I'll probably stop sometime soon. Or maybe I won't. No, I'm going to carry on a bit more. I think I can still get some more glints in without killing it off completely and making it sit wrong inside the picture. That's terrible English, but you know what I mean. Still carrying on the same, picking out areas where I think the light might just catch. It might be better explained with a few glints here and there. I'm not going to bother with finishing off that other hand, which kind of goes into the foliage. The whole point was he was going to be kind of using that for support. Now I'm going to have a go with the chalk again now. So I've created another layer, and I'm looking for a suitable paper texture whereby I can paint again and get a sort of rusty texture without doing too much work, which is what I've done here. And then tidying it up to make sure it doesn't overlap dark edges where it shouldn't too much. So you can get things on quite quickly this way. Warming up some of the rust colours a bit to make them zing. That's a word I like. Zing. Of light, I'm going with a slightly lighter colour now, going over the same area. I've locked the transparency, and I'm going back in to help the form a bit as well. But I could carry on doing this forever, so I have to make myself stop. So what I do to make myself do that is I will merge all layers, flatten all the layers down to one layer, and then do a tiny bit of last minute tinkering, crisping things up here and there, like the rose, and just tinker here and there. And then stop. And this is where we got to. So I hope you get something out of this. I got something out of this doing it, and I will see you next time. Right, bye.